Welcome back to Movies TV Mad. You can follow me on Twitter at Movies TV Mad. And welcome to Monday's very short and brief show, because I gave you a blockbuster of a video that only uploaded today. It took 2 days to upload, but I thought I'd do something, and this is a very, very interesting conversation, because last week's announcement from David Zaslav and Warner Brothers Discovery that Batgirl is being cancelled was huge, and people are still having an outcry and outrage about it. Listen, if I'm Leslie Grace, I'm going to be hugely disappointed that I don't have a job anymore, a young woman who's conducted herself in a perfect way. Then I look over there at Warner Brothers and I see that Ezra Miller at this moment in time is still the Flash, and he's misbehaved, he's broken the law, accusations of so many terrible things. And I'm sure Leslie is thinking this for sure, and the other actors in Batgirl, this is not fair, and it's not. But I do believe every decision that David Zaslav has made recently are the right decisions. Putting the CW on the market, the correct decision. They're just costing the corporation money. They're just costing Warner Brothers money. Not worth keeping. The CW have been a dead weight, really, ever since WBTV merged with CBS. An absolute dead weight. Arrowverse the same. The right decision to burn Arrowverse to the ground. It had to go. So that section of DC is pretty much gone. We've got Jeff Johns Stargirl, and we've got Superman and Lois. But what happens to the DCEU? I mean, what is the future? Now, some people think he'll get rid of the DCEU entirely. I think really it's a kind of good idea to start again, because the DCEU has got this terrible history. And, when you're trying to sell something commercially and people don't really have that trust in something, it's very, very difficult. But here's the interesting thing. James Gunn's Peacemaker 2 is happening. James has confirmed this. David Zaslav has told him this. And we're not going to see that we may see it by the end of next year, maybe 2024. That kind of tells me that the DCEU isn't going anywhere. But what kind of DCEU are we going to get if they're not getting rid of it and they're keeping Peacemaker, which is part of the DCEU? So that kind of tells me something's going on here, and we're going to keep some semblance of some version of the DCEU. But let's look at the evidence. What are they going to keep going forward? The Hamadaverse? The Snyderverse? Or are they going to try their own new timeline? I don't think we're going to go with the Hamadaverse, and I don't think they're going to start a new timeline. Again, let's look at the evidence. They've cancelled Batgirl, as we've already mentioned, right? That's the first movie which is within Hamada's new timeline. They've cancelled that movie. It's dead. What does that tell you? A couple of weeks ago, they announced that Ben Affleck's Batman and Bruce Wayne would cameo or play a big role, whatever, in Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom. He's coming back originally. Keaton was going to be in that movie. It looks like Batfleck, is replacing Michael Keaton's Batman. Again, what does this tell you? Well, if I was a guessing man, which I am, because I'm all about the guessing, especially these days, because Zaslav isn't allowing anything to be leaked, it looks like we're going back to the Snyderverse timeline. No new timeline, no flashpoint. So for the people, really upset, and I understand why you're upset that Ezra Miller still has a job and Leslie Grace hasn't, it's not fair. But I still think the Batgirl cancellation was the right move, because Zaslav's been talking about protecting the DC brand, and this is how you do it. Simple as that. He's cancelled Batgirl. He said he thinks the Flash movie like Black Adam and Shazam Fury of the Gods are great movies, but he can make them better. That means he thinks they're not very good movies and he can make them better. What does he mean by this? Does the Flash movie get rewritten, reshot, same director, same writer? I would think it's impossible for Christina Hodgson to remain as the writer of the Flash movie. It's impossible. If he's going back and he's saying we're going to make these movies better, which he said, it didn't come out of my mouth. I'm just reiterating what the man said. They're going to do something here. Kevin Smith believes, like we read the other day, that they cancelled Batgirl so publicly to see the reaction, and if they could get away with doing something with the Flash movie. You've got to look at David Zaslav as a bit of a Jedi. Just imagine this, he cancels Batgirl. Now people are demanding, want the Flash movie to be cancelled, because they're saying if Batgirl's cancelled, why is the Flash still there? Why has Ezra Miller still got a job? I mean, this is some kind of Jedi mind trick behaviour, right? I mean, it's hilarious if you think about it this way. Listen, I can only see the scenario of Ezra Miller losing his job, maybe even, Andy Muschietti, and definitely Christina Hodson won't have her script in that movie. Someone's going to rewrite this movie, and someone, I don't think it's Andy Muschietti, because he's a Walter Hamada director. They worked together on New Line Cinema, that's why he got this gig. So these people are gone. So they're definitely going to change this movie. But what do? Do they go back and remake the movie? Or do they go back and take that movie, remove Ezra Miller, put a new Flash in? I don't know. That sounds rather messy to me. So even though they said The Flash is a great movie, don't be surprised if this film just gets canned. Because you can't trust what these people say. But he said he can make them better. That sounds like reshoots and rewrites to me. So anything's possible here. So what I'm saying here is, in terms of his grand plan at the moment, because Peacemaker is still happening and that's in the DCEU, at the moment, all I can think is we're going back to the Snyderverse timeline. And if we're going back to Snyder's actors, there's a big chance that Snyder could return to run things as impossible and as insane as that sounds like, because I don't think this is a good commercial plan. I love Zack. I love the Snyderverse. If it was up to me, I'd burn the whole thing down and start again. Now, he did talk about, resetting the DC universe, which I think is very, very interesting as well. But we'll have to wait and see. I mean, that is the best idea. He's developing a DC Studios. He's going to have a new team at DC Studios, and you would think, and it looks like he's going to have a DC president. So it looks like he's talking about resetting things. I mean, as I say, Peacemaker 2 could be the end, and that could be it. There's several things that J.J. Abrams was going to do, which I don't think are going to happen. Rumours now that his Constantine is going to happen. I think if it's going to happen, it's going to be more comic book accurate. So that means who originally was going to play Constantine, and let me not go deeper into that, is going to change. I think, Zaslav is in control of this situation, not J.J. Abrams. It's a difficult situation because Zaslav's come in the middle of things. There's things ready to roll. A lot of these things, not just Batgirl, are going to be cancelled. The big decision is, does he stay with some semblance of the DCEU, or does he reset everything? I mean, like he's claiming, we're resetting things. What does that mean? The business, the franchise? Because, as I say, you can allow Peacemaker 2 to happen. Then that's it. The Batman stuff's irrelevant. But you couldn't... Basically, what you could do is allow the DCEU to naturally die. You could embrace Reeves' Batman DC universe, and then Matt Reeves could be in control and have his, bring in other directors to do Superman, other characters. It could be like that. I have no idea. But by bringing back, look, just because he brings Ben Affleck back, it doesn't necessarily mean he's restoring the Snyderverse to the central universe of the DCEU. What he doesn't want is the new timeline and Keaton as Batman. So you can kind of understand why Batfleck has returned. So it's a very confusing situation for people who are paying attention. I don't think it's definite that they're restoring the Snyderverse and bringing back those actors. I don't think it's a foregone conclusion they keep the DCEU. As I've already said, the best option is to reset everything like he's been talking about and start again. That's what I do. A fresh start is which is what's needed, and a competent business manager would do that. I certainly would do that. As much of a fan as I am of the Snyderverse, and I get why people would be gutted if it wasn't restored. But I think for the central universe right now, because he has, we have heard from insiders he likes Todd Phillips a lot. That's why he greenlit the Joker sequel. He's taking advice from him. So that's an interesting situation as well. Whatever happens, your guess is as good as mine, but we're going to react to it when it actually happens. That's going to be a big day, isn't it? We don't know what's going on with Superman, Henry Cavill, the Snyderverse, the DCEU. Is it the DCEU or not the DCEU? We're going to have to wait and see. This has been Movies TV Mad. I'm Mick, your host with the most. Just ask your girlfriends and your wives. Please like, share, comment, subscribe. Hit the notification bell so you don't miss this beautiful perfection. And I'll see you again for Tuesday's show. Until we see each other again, goodbye, au revoir, auf Wiedersehen.